A Redditor claims their friend resurfaced from a deep dive acting normal, except he remembered events that never happened, and people who don't exist. We've been planning the Belize trip for 8 months. Marcus and I had logged over 200 dives between us, explored wrecks in the Mediterranean, cave systems in Mexico, even the cold dark waters off the Scottish coast. We thought we'd seen everything the ocean could show us. We were wrong about that. Dead wrong. The Great Blue Hole had been on our bucket list since we'd first gotten certified. That perfect circular sinkhole in the middle of the Caribbean, dropping down over 400 feet into darkness. From the air, it looks like a giant eye staring up at the sky. From the water, it feels like something else entirely. Something that watches back. Our guide, a local named Thomas, briefed us on the descent profile during the boat ride out. Maximum depth of 130 feet. Stick to the planned route, don't wander off into the side passages. Standard safety protocol. Marcus and I had heard it all before. We checked each other's equipment with the practiced efficiency of dive partners who trusted each other with their lives dozens of times. The water was that impossible shade of blue that only exists in the Caribbean. Crystal clear on the surface, darkening to navy, then black as you approach the hole's center. We descended slowly, equalizing pressure, watching the light change above us. Reef sharks circled lazily in the blue, uninterested in the bubble-blowing intruders. Stalactites hung from the limestone walls, ancient formations from when this was a dry cave, before the sea reclaimed it. At 80 feet, the character of the dive changed. The water grew noticeably colder. The formations became stranger, more twisted. Thomas kept checking his dive computer, signaling for us to maintain depth and stay close. But Marcus had always been the more curious one. The one who wanted to see what was around the next corner, behind the next rock formation. I saw him drift toward the eastern wall, where shadows gathered thick between the stalactites. I followed, not wanting him to go alone, though something about that darkness made my skin prickle even through the wetsuit. Thomas's light beam swung toward us, and I could see him making the signal to return to the group. Marcus waved him off, pointing at something in the wall. There was an opening. Not marked on any of the briefing materials, not mentioned in Thomas's safety speech. A narrow vertical shaft, maybe 2 feet wide, disappearing down into blackness that our lights couldn't penetrate. The limestone around it looked different, smoother, almost polished. Marcus turned to me, eyes wide behind his mask, that look he got when he'd found something interesting. I shook my head. Wrong feeling about it. All wrong. But Marcus was already checking his pressure gauge, his computer. We had air. We had time. He pointed at himself, then at the shaft, then held up his hand. 5 minutes. Just a quick look. Before I could grab him, he'd slipped into that narrow space and dropped out of sight. I hovered there, light beam pointing down, waiting for the glow of his torch to reappear. Thomas arrived beside me, grabbed my arm, made frantic signals. "Where's your buddy?" I pointed at the shaft. Thomas's eyes went wide. He shook his head violently, made the signal for danger, for prohibited, for absolutely not. Then he dropped down beside the opening, shining his light into it. Nothing. Just darkness swallowing the beam. We waited. 1 minute. 2. I checked my dive computer obsessively. At 5 minutes, Thomas began making emergency signals. He wanted to surface, get help, call the Coast Guard. I refused to leave. That was Marcus down there. My best friend since college. My dive buddy. You don't leave your buddy. 7 minutes. Thomas was pulling at me now, physically trying to drag me up. The other divers from our group had gathered, their lights creating a constellation of worried stars in the deep blue. My air supply was getting low. We needed to start ascending soon or we'd be in decompression trouble. 10 minutes. My heart hammered against my ribs. He was gone. There was no way he had enough air left. Even with slow, controlled breathing, his tank would be nearly empty. And that was assuming he hadn't gotten stuck in that shaft, hadn't ripped his regulator out in a panic, hadn't. At 12 minutes and 30 seconds, Marcus emerged from the shaft. He rose up out of that darkness as calmly as if he'd been taking a stroll. No rapid breathing, no panic, no frantic kicking. His movements were smooth, controlled, almost floating. He looked at us through his mask, and even in the distorted underwater light, I could see something in his eyes. Something that made me go cold inside. Thomas grabbed him immediately, checked his gauges, his regulator, searching for signs of distress. But Marcus's pressure gauge showed he still had air. Impossible. 12 minutes at that depth, exploring an unknown shaft, he should have been sucking fumes. We began the ascent. Standard safety stops, watching for signs of decompression sickness, of nitrogen narcosis, of any of the 100 things that could kill you when you push the limits underwater. But Marcus seemed fine. Better than fine. He moved through the water like he'd been doing it his whole life, like the ocean was his natural element. It wasn't until we broke the surface and pulled ourselves onto the boat that I saw his face clearly in the sunlight. That's when I knew something fundamental had changed. Marcus was looking at all of us like he'd never seen us before, like we were strangers wearing familiar faces. "Where am I?" he asked, pulling his regulator from his mouth. "Where's Sarah?" None of us knew anyone named Sarah. Thomas stripped off Marcus's gear with shaking hands, checking him over for injuries, for signs of oxygen toxicity or decompression sickness. But physically, Marcus appeared perfect. His pupils were normal, his breathing steady, his skin the right color. No rashes, no tremors, no confusion, at least not the medical kind. "Who's Sarah?" I asked, pulling off my own gear and kneeling beside him on the boat's deck. "Marcus, are you okay? Do you know where you are?" He looked at me, then really looked at me, and his expression shifted from confusion to something worse. Recognition without connection. Like seeing someone who looks exactly like a person you know but isn't quite right. Like staring at your reflection and finding it a degree off from what it should be. "David?" he said, but he said it like a question. Like he wasn't sure that was my name, even though we'd known each other for 15 years. "Yeah, it's me." "Marcus, what happened down there? You were gone for over 12 minutes. Your air." "I need to call Sarah," he interrupted, looking around the boat with growing agitation. "And Emma. God, Emma must be terrified. I've been gone for hours." "You've been gone for 12 minutes, Thomas said firmly, in that calm voice medical professionals use with people who might be losing it. "And you were underwater. Not hours. Minutes. Who are Sarah and Emma?" Marcus's face crumpled. Not with confusion now, but with genuine distress. "My wife. My daughter. I don't understand. This morning I was taking Emma to school, and Sarah asked me to pick up groceries on the way home, and He stopped, touching his wetsuit like he was surprised to find himself wearing it. "Why am I in dive gear? I don't dive. Sarah won't let me, not after her brother." "Marcus." I gripped his shoulders, forcing him to focus on me. "You don't have a wife. You're not married. You don't have a daughter. We came here together, remember? Belize? The Blue Hole? We'd been planning this trip for months." He stared at me like I'd lost my mind. "My name is Marcus Thorpe. I live at 447 Sycamore Drive in Portland. I'm a high school history teacher. I've been married to Sarah for 11 years. Our daughter Emma is 9 years old. I don't know who you are or why you're saying these things, but I need to call my family right now." The other divers had gathered around us, forming a concerned circle. Someone offered Marcus water, which he drank mechanically, still looking around like he expected to wake up from a dream. Thomas radioed back to shore, requesting medical personnel meet us at the dock. "What do you remember about today?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. "Start from this morning." Marcus closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, tears had gathered at the corners. "I woke up at 6. Made coffee. Sarah was already up, getting Emma's lunch ready. Emma complained about wearing her jacket because it's been warm lately, but Sarah insisted. I kissed them both goodbye. Drove to Jefferson High School. I've taught there for 6 years. My first class was sophomore American history. We were covering the Civil War. Then it gets fuzzy, like static. And then I was in the water, and you were all staring at me." Every detail was delivered with absolute conviction. He wasn't confused or uncertain. He believed every word he was saying with the kind of bone-deep certainty that comes from lived experience. "Marcus," I said gently, "your last name is Chen, not Thorpe. You're a software engineer, not a teacher. You've never been married. You live in San Francisco, not Portland. We've been friends since college. We met at Berkeley freshman year. You were my roommate." He looked at me with such profound incomprehension that my chest went tight. "I went to Portland State," he said. "I've never been to Berkeley. I don't know how to code. And my mother's name was Thorpe. I took her name when my parents divorced. Why would I use my father's name? We haven't spoken in 15 years." I pulled out my phone, hands trembling, and showed him photos. Us in college, at various dive sites, at my sister's wedding last year where he'd been my best man. He studied each one like they were pictures of strangers who happened to look exactly like him. "That's not me," he whispered. "I mean, it looks like me, but I've never been to any of those places. I've never done any of those things." His breathing quickened. "This isn't real. This can't be real." Thomas had seen enough. "We're heading back now. He needs proper medical attention." During the 20-minute ride back to shore, Marcus sat in the stern, wrapped in a towel, staring at his hands like they belonged to someone else. I sat beside him, afraid to leave him alone, afraid of what might happen if I looked away. "There were lights down there," he said suddenly, so quietly I almost didn't hear him over the engine. "In that shaft. Blue lights, but not like regular lights. Like they were alive. Like they were thinking." He turned to me and his eyes had gone distant. "And there were others. People, I think, but not quite. They were waiting. They'd been waiting for a long time." "Waiting for what?" He smiled then, but it wasn't Marcus's smile. The expression was all wrong, the muscles moving in unfamiliar patterns across a face I'd known for 15 years. "For someone to trade places with," he said. "The medical examination found nothing wrong. His blood oxygen levels were normal. No signs of the bends, no nitrogen narcosis, no brain injury. The doctor at the clinic, a weary-looking woman who'd probably seen hundreds of diving mishaps, attributed it to acute stress response. Confusion, false memories, disorientation. All possible symptoms of a traumatic event, even if the body showed no physical signs. She prescribed rest and observation, suggested we cancel the rest of our diving activities. But I'd seen the look in Marcus's eyes on the boat. Whatever had happened in that shaft, it wasn't stress. We checked into a hotel on the mainland. Marcus moved through the space like a ghost, touching things tentatively, studying ordinary objects with strange fascination. He picked up the TV remote, turned it over in his hands, pressed buttons experimentally like he'd never seen one before. When I ordered room service, he stared at the menu for a full minute before saying he didn't recognize any of the food. "You love jerk chicken," I said. "You ordered it at that place in Kingston last year." "I've never been to Jamaica," he replied, and there was no doubt in his voice. "Sarah and I talked about going for our 10th anniversary, but Emma got sick and we couldn't travel. I ordered for both of us. While we waited, I tried a different approach. Tell me about Sarah. Describe her." His face softened immediately. "She's 5'5", curly dark hair, brown eyes. She has a scar on her left hand from when she was learning to cook as a kid, burned herself on a pan. She laughs at her own jokes before she finishes telling them. She's a pediatric nurse at Providence Hospital. She's terrified of moths but thinks spiders are cute." He paused. "She's the best person I've ever known." Every detail came without hesitation, painted with the kind of intimate knowledge you only get from years of loving someone. I pulled out my laptop and searched for Sarah Thorpe in Portland. Nothing. Sarah Thorpe, pediatric nurse. Nothing. I tried variations, expanded the search. Dozens of Sarahs, dozens of Thorpes, but none matching his description, none working in healthcare in Portland. "She doesn't exist, Marcus. I'm sorry, but whoever you're remembering, she isn't real." He went very still. "Show me your phone again." "The photos." I did. He studied them more carefully this time, zooming in on faces, on backgrounds. When he got to one from a dive trip to Catalina Island 2 years ago, he stopped. "That's not my dive certification card," he said, pointing to his younger self holding up a potty card for the camera. "I don't dive. I never learned. Sarah's brother drowned in a diving accident in 2019, and she made me promise I'd never." He stopped, squeezed his eyes shut. "But here I am in dive gear. In the photo. That's my face. my body. But those aren't my memories. What do you remember from the shaft? I asked. The blue lights you mentioned on the boat. He was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice had gone flat, emotionless. It wasn't a shaft. Not really. It was a passage. And it didn't go down, it went somewhere else. Sideways to here. The walls weren't rock. They were moving, breathing. And the lights. He shuddered. The lights were alive. They came close to me, so close I could feel them against my skin even through the wetsuit. They were cold. Cold in a way that doesn't have anything to do with temperature. They were asking questions without words. Showing me things. What things? Other lives. Thousands of them. Millions maybe. All stacked on top of each other like pages in a book. Different versions of the world, different versions of people. Some similar to this one, some completely alien. And they wanted... He opened his eyes, looked directly at me. They wanted to know if I wanted to trade. If I wanted to step into a different life. Become someone else. My mouth had gone dry. And you said yes? No. His voice was firm. I said no. I tried to back out of the passage, get back to you and Thomas. But something else came up behind me. Not a light. Something that used to be a person. It pushed past me, and when it did, I felt something tear. Like a piece of me was ripped away and something else was shoved into the gap. And then I was back in the water, and you were all staring at me, and I couldn't remember how I got there. I could only remember Sarah and Emma and my classroom and my life that I can see now, somehow, isn't real. Jesus Christ. I sat back, trying to process what he was saying. You're saying something swapped lives with you? Took your place? Not swapped. Not completely. It's more like... He struggled for words. Like two pictures overlaid on top of each other. I can see both now. Feel both. I remember being Marcus Chin, software engineer, your college roommate. But I also remember being Marcus Thorpe, teacher, husband, father. And those Thorpe memories feel more real, more solid. Like the Chin memories are fading photographs and the Thorpe ones are in high definition. I stood up, paced the room. This was insane. But I'd seen him emerge from that shaft. Seen something wrong in his eyes before he'd ever opened his mouth. If something took your place, the real you, the Marcus Chin I know, where is he now? Marcus met my gaze, and for just a moment, I saw the friend I'd known for 15 years looking back at me through the stranger's eyes. Down there, he whispered. Still down there. Living the life I remember. Taking care of a wife and daughter who exist somewhere I can't reach anymore. And whoever's in here, he touched his chest. They want back what was taken from them. They're screaming for it. That night I didn't sleep. I sat in the chair by the window watching Marcus in the other bed. He thrashed in his dreams, murmuring names I didn't recognize, calling out for Emma in a voice thick with anguish. Twice he sat bolt upright, staring into the darkness with eyes that didn't seem to see the hotel room at all. Around 3 in the morning, he got up and went to the small desk, pulling out paper and pen from the drawer. I watched as he began to draw, his hand moving with mechanical precision, no hesitation, no corrections. When dawn finally crept through the curtains, he was still drawing. Marcus. I approached carefully. What are you doing? He didn't look up. Recording it. Before I forget. Before they take even this away. I looked over his shoulder and felt my stomach drop. He'd drawn a map. Not of any place that should exist, but there it was in blue ballpoint ink, impossibly detailed. A vast underground structure, all curves and spirals, spreading beneath the ocean floor like the roots of some enormous tree. Chambers and passages branched off in fractal patterns, and at various points throughout the structure, he'd drawn symbols I didn't recognize. Geometric shapes that hurt to look at too long, as if they existed in more dimensions than my eyes could process. But it was the center of the map that made my hands go cold. There, in the heart of the structure, he'd drawn a city. Not a human city. The buildings, if they were buildings, twisted in impossible angles, defying perspective. And throughout the city, he'd drawn lights. Hundreds of them. Maybe thousands. What is this? I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. It's where they live. The things in the shaft. They're not just in that one place. That passage is just an entrance. The real city is deeper, spread out under the whole Caribbean, maybe under all the oceans. They've been there for a long time, longer than humans. They were there before the water came, and they'll be there after we're gone. He added more details to the drawing, his hand moving faster now, almost frantic. They don't die like we do. They just change, trade, move from one form to another, one life to another. They've perfected it over millennia. But they need us now. They need bodies that belong to this version of the world, this layer of reality. Their original forms can't leave the deep anymore. The pressure, the cold, they're bound to it. But they remember what it was like to walk on land, to feel sunlight, to breathe air. They want it back. So they trade places with divers? Take over their bodies? Not exactly. Marcus set down the pen, finally looking at me. His eyes were bloodshot, ringed with dark circles. It's more complicated. They don't steal bodies, they offer exchanges. Different lives and different versions of reality. Most people they approach say no, like I tried to, but some say yes. Some people are so desperate to escape their lives that they'll trade anything for a chance to be someone else. And some, his voice cracked, some don't get a choice. If you linger too long, if you go too deep, if you're not careful, they can force the exchange. Push someone else's life into your head and pull yours out. He touched the map with trembling fingers. The Marcushian life feels like it's slipping away, like trying to hold water in my hands. But the Thorpe life is becoming more solid every hour. Soon I won't remember being your friend at all. I'll only remember Sarah and Emma and a life I never actually lived. We'll fix this, I said, trying to sound confident. We'll go back. We'll find a way to reverse it. You can't reverse it. His voice was hollow. Once the exchange starts, it continues until it's complete. That's what they showed me down there. Thousands of years of exchanges, an endless cycle. Someone jumps into your life, you jump into theirs, and everyone else jumps one spot over. Musical chairs with existence itself. He stood abruptly, walked to the window, and stared out at the ocean visible in the distance. I can feel him, he whispered. The real Marcus Thorpe. The one whose life I'm remembering. He's in me trying to get out. Trying to get back to Sarah and Emma. And he's angry. So angry. Because he didn't want to trade. He was happy. He loved his life, his family. And something ripped him away from it and shoved him into the life of a man who was swimming in dark water. A man who would die if the exchange didn't complete. Where is your life now? The real one, the Chin life. Marcus turned from the window, and his expression made my blood run cold. He smiled, but it wasn't directed at me. It was directed at something I couldn't see, something that existed in his perception but not mine. They told me, he said softly. They told me everything. How it works, where the lives go. Your Marcus Chin, the friend you've known for 15 years, is in the deep now. Living in the darkness, taking care of their city, maintaining their structures. He's one of them now, or he will be soon. They need caretakers, you see. People to tend the lights, to maintain the passages, to help others make the exchange. It's not cruel. They promise it's an honor. They promise he'll be happy there, in the cold and the dark, for whatever passes is forever in that place. He returned to the desk, picked up the map, and held it out to me. Take this. Show people. Maybe someone will listen. Maybe someone will believe you. What are you going to do? Marcus's smile faded. I'm going to find the water, he said. I'm going to go back to where I belong. I didn't sleep that night either. I couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that map, those impossible geometries spreading like cancer under the ocean floor. Marcus had gone quiet after our conversation, retreating into himself, speaking only in short sentences when I asked him direct questions. He ate nothing, drank water mechanically when I put a glass in his hands. His eyes had taken on a distant quality, like he was watching something happening very far away. By midnight, he'd moved to sit by the window, staring out at the darkness where the ocean lay beyond the lights of the town. I dozed fitfully in my chair, jerking awake every time I heard him move. But he just sat there, motionless, his reflection in the glass overlaying the night beyond like a ghost superimposed on the world. Around 2 a.m, I heard him speaking. The words were too soft to make out at first, just a murmur like prayer. I stood quietly, moved closer, trying not to startle him. I know. I understand. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Marcus, I said softly. Who are you talking to? He didn't turn from the window. He's angry with me. Marcus Thorpe, the real one. He keeps showing me memories. Emma's first day of school, Sarah's birthday last month, the way the light comes through their bedroom window in the morning. He wants me to know what I took from him. What we both lost. You didn't take anything. Something else did this to both of you. Doesn't matter. His voice was flat, emotionless. The result is the same. He can't get back to his family. And I'm walking around in his life, in his skin, remembering loving people who don't exist in this version of reality. Do you know what that feels like? To love someone with your whole heart and know they were never real? That they exist somewhere you can't reach, being loved by someone else who has your face. He finally turned to look at me, and I had to force myself not to step back. His eyes had changed. The color was the same, but something behind them had shifted. Like looking at a familiar house and realizing all the furniture inside has been rearranged by strangers. I need to go back to the water, he said. It's the only way to make this right. They'll take me back. They'll sort out the exchange, put everyone back where they belong. Marcus Thorpe can go home to his wife and daughter. Marcus Chin can return to his life. And I, whoever I actually am, can finally rest. That's not going to happen, I said firmly. We're going home tomorrow. Back to San Francisco. We'll get you proper help, figure this out. There's no figuring this out. He stood, and I realized he was still wearing his wetsuit from the dive, had never changed out of it. I'm not Marcus Chin anymore. Maybe I never was. Maybe the Chin life was just another exchange, another trade that happened before I was old enough to remember. Maybe we're all just wearing borrowed lives, shuffling through existences that don't really belong to us. Marcus, listen to yourself. This is. I can hear the water, he interrupted. It's been calling me all night, singing in frequencies you can't hear. They're waiting for me. They know I'm ready now. They know I understand. He moved toward the door, and I blocked his path. You're not going anywhere. Not alone. Not like this. For a moment, something flickered in his eyes. A flash of the friend I'd known, the man who'd saved my life during a dive in Cozumel when my regulator failed, who'd stood beside me at my sister's wedding, who'd been the closest thing to family I had outside my blood relatives. David, he said, and this time he said my name with certainty, with recognition. I'm sorry. For all of this. You're a good friend. The best. I hope someday the real Marcus, whichever one that is, gets to tell you that himself. Then he pushed past me and was out the door before I could stop him. I grabbed my phone, my shoes, and ran after him, but he'd already disappeared into the warm Caribbean night. I called the police, the Coast Guard, anyone who would listen. Told them my friend was having a mental health crisis, was heading for the water, needed immediate intervention. They promised to search, to watch the beaches, to do everything they could. But I already knew they wouldn't find him in time. The hotel security footage told the story I'd been dreading. The cameras caught Marcus walking down to the private beach behind the hotel. He stood at the water's edge for nearly 4 hours, just standing there, staring at the gentle waves. The footage had no audio, but his lips moved constantly, speaking to something the cameras couldn't see. Around 5:30 in the morning, just before dawn, he walked into the water fully clothed in his wetsuit. Walked until the water reached his chest, then his shoulders, then closed over his head. He never came back up. The Coast Guard searched for 3 days. Divers combed the area, searched every reef, every cave, every possible place a body might have drifted. They found nothing. Nothing except his wetsuit. They discovered it on the 4th day, washed up on a beach 10 miles north of where he'd walked into the water. It was inside out, peeled off like someone had shed his skin. And it was full of seawater. Not damp, not wet, completely filled like someone had carefully poured water into it and sealed it closed. There was no body. No Marcus Chin, no Marcus Thorpe, no trace of the man I'd known for 15 years or the stranger who'd come back from that shaft. I still have the map he drew. I keep it in a safe deposit box now. Can't bring myself to destroy it, but can't look at it too long either. Sometimes late at night, I pull it out and study those impossible geometries, those twisted structures spreading under the ocean floor. I trace the passages with my finger, following them down, down, down to that city of lights at the center. And sometimes when I'm alone in the dark, I can almost hear them singing, calling from the deep, offering trades, exchanges, the chance to step into a different life, to become someone else. I wonder how many people hear that song. How many say yes? I haven't been diving since that trip. Can't bring myself to put on the gear to drop below the surface. Every body of water looks different to me now. Not peaceful or inviting, but full of hidden passages, secret doors to places we were never meant to go. Places where things that aren't quite human anymore wait in the cold darkness. Desperate to feel the sun again, to breathe air again, to live surface lives in borrowed bodies. The authorities ruled it death by drowning, probable suicide brought on by acute psychological distress. They don't know about the memories that weren't his, the life he couldn't have lived, the map of an impossible city. They don't know that something came back in Marcus's place, something that remembered being human but couldn't quite manage to act like it anymore. I tried to tell Sarah Thorpe's story, tried to find some evidence that she and Emma existed somewhere. I searched every database, every record, followed every lead. Nothing. As far as this world is concerned, they never existed. But somewhere, in some version of reality adjacent to ours, maybe they're real. Maybe Marcus Thorpe made it home to them. Maybe he's taking Emma to school this morning, kissing Sarah goodbye, living the life that was torn away from him. Or maybe he's like his doppelganger now, walking around in a stranger's life, loving people who don't exist, slowly losing himself to memories that don't belong to him. I'll never know. None of us will. That's the real horror of it, not the impossible city under the ocean, not the creatures that live there, but the uncertainty. The knowledge that the people we love, the lives we think we're living, might not be as solid as we believe. That somewhere in the dark water, something might be waiting to trade places, to slip into our skin and send us somewhere else. Sometimes I dream I'm in that shaft, surrounded by blue lights that think and breathe and ask questions without words. They show me other lives I could live, other versions of myself and other versions of the world. Better lives, easier lives, lives without loss or pain or the memory of a friend who walked into the ocean and never came back. And every time I wake up terrified, not that I said yes, but that I might say yes next time. That one night I'll find myself walking toward the water, hearing that song, ready to trade everything I am for the chance to be someone else. The map sits in its box, and the ocean keeps its secrets, and somewhere in the deep, the lights continue their work. Trading, exchanging, shuffling lives like cards in an endless game. And Marcus, whichever Marcus he truly was, remains down there in the darkness, either trapped or transcendent, either suffering or finally at peace. I'll never dive again. Never risk finding out which one is true. But sometimes, late at night when I can't sleep, I stand at my window and look toward the ocean, and I swear I can feel something looking back. Something with Marcus's face but not his eyes, something that remembers being human and wants to try again, wants to trade just one more time. And I wonder how much longer I can keep saying no. The end.